Welcome everybody to a live webinar here at BINA. This week's topic is the Torah's view on animal rights. A couple of months ago, there was a huge controversy regarding a zoo which killed a gorilla in order to save a child who fell into the gorilla's cage, and there was a presumed danger of the child's life, and the zoo shot and killed the gorilla. The animal rights groups were up in arms about this evil act, that how could it be that the zoo had murdered a gorilla in order to save a child. Personally, after having read through quite a bit about this story, I have concluded that the discussion here isn't whose fault it was, or maybe they didn't have to kill the gorilla, maybe they could have just tranquilized it, because all of these claims have been refuted by common sense and experts in the field. Therefore, I have concluded that the real question here are not all of these details and nitty-gritty details about the story. Rather, the real question here is an animal life as valuable and as important as a human life? That is the question. If an animal life is on the same level, is as sacred as a human life, then we should go to every single measure to decide who is in danger here and who is killing who. If there is no other way to save the child other than killing the gorilla, then maybe we can kill the gorilla. But then at least there'll be room for outrage that maybe we shouldn't have done it this way, maybe they should have done it differently, and maybe they didn't need to do it at all. However, if animal life is not as important as human life, and if in fact human life is infinitely more sacred and more important than animal life, then it's not even a question. If there's a doubt that this animal, this gorilla, is in fact killing this child, then of course we will kill it in order to save the child's life. So that is really the question. Is an animal life equal to a human life? And the question is, what is Torah's view on that dilemma? The real question is actually when it comes to eating meat, because generally people don't fall into gorilla cages, so that story doesn't happen every day, but every day people do eat meat. And eating meat is not essential to our survival. In theory, we can survive perfectly fine without eating meat. So this is not something that a human life is in danger versus an animal life is in danger. We're killing an innocent animal in order that we should enjoy better food. Is that morally good or is that immoral? What is Torah's view regarding that? So the answer to the above questions we will actually discuss on Thursday. So tune in on Thursday. Today I want to show you that if anybody cares about animal rights, it is in fact Torah. On Thursday, we will get into if that is in conflict with human life and if you can kill an animal in order to eat it. However, today let's have a look. What are the laws set down in Torah regarding protecting animal rights, animal pain, and animal life? And in fact, if anything, Torah is the first documented laws regarding animal rights way before any animal rights movements were formed. In the 10 Commandments, which one of them, of course, is to keep Shabbos, part of keeping Shabbos is allowing our animals to rest. During the week, we may use our animals to work, to plow the field, etc. However, on Shabbos, not only are we commanded to rest, but our animals have to rest at all. Of course, there is a famous story in the Gemara, in the Talmud regarding this, that there was a Jew who owned a cow, and every single week he would tell the cow, it's Shabbos, now it's time to rest. A Gentile, a non-Jew, came and bought this cow from him, and came Shabbos, the cow was used to a day of rest, and went to sleep and refused to work. The Gentile comes back to the Jew and asks the Jew, you sold me a defected cow that only works 6 days a week. So the Jew explained to this Gentile that it's Shabbos and the cow is used to working on Shabbos, and he whispered into the cow's ear that you're not working for me anymore, now you're working for a new owner, and you have to in fact start working on Shabbos. The story continues that this non-Jew was so amazed of this idea that even the cow rested on Shabbos, that he himself actually became a Jew, converted to Judaism, and started to keep Shabbos himself. This idea that we're commanded to allow our animals to rest, that is unique in Torah. That is a novelty which Torah gave a new law of allowing one day a week that even our animals should be able to rest. We are commanded to feed our animals before we feed ourselves. So if we're about to sit down to a meal and we own a cat or a dog or a horse or a cow or whatever animal you own, we are commanded to feed the animals prior to feeding oneself. So much is Torah concerned about the rights of an animal. Although, of course, we are allowed to use animals to plow our fields and to work with them. However, we are forbidden to exert them beyond what they can do. When we see that they need a rest, we are commanded to give them a rest. Of course, it is absolutely forbidden to cause any unnecessary pain to animals. We go through a lot to actually ensure that there's no pain caused to animals. Even while killing an animal in order to eat it, which we will discuss the morality of that on Thursday, but even while killing an animal, we use a special knife called a chalif, a special shchita knife, a slaughtering knife, which has to, according to Jewish law, have to be 100% smooth, that it should cause the minimum amount of pain to the animal. I have personally heard from shachtim, from ritual slaughterers, Jewish slaughterers, that if they cut their hand with that knife, it may take a few hours to realize that they've cut themselves because they don't feel it. The knife is so smooth that that cut is actually not felt. They only feel it later, or when they see the blood, that's when they know that they've cut themselves. So much do we go to ensure, so far do we go to ensure that animals should not be pained. We even take this a step further. In some cases, and I emphasize in some cases, we even transgress Jewish law in order to not cause unnecessary pain to animals. What's an example of that? It's just a little bit of background. We know that there are 39 melachos on Shabbos. There are 39 forbidden works that we are not allowed to do on Shabbos. One of them in Hebrew is called dash. Dash originally was, the root of it is, that you cannot thresh wheat, which basically separates the edible parts of the wheat from the inedible. The defining aspect of this labor is taking something away from its natural source. Anything, not only wheat, and we'll bring an example in a second, anything that we take away from its natural source, its natural shell, that is called dash. One of the examples of this is milking. Milking a human being, a woman, or even a cow, milking a cow. Because milk is in its source, in the mother, in the case of a human, or in the cow, and taking it away from the source is called dash. Now, of course, a mother is allowed to nurse their baby on Shabbos because a baby needs to survive. However, when it comes to, for example, expressing milk on Shabbos, that is a halachic question, and one should consult a rabbi if one needs to do so. How about milking an animal? Milking an animal shouldn't be necessary. However, since not milking the animal on Shabbos may cause pain to the animal of a lot of milk being there, therefore we are permitted to do it in a way which will only be rabbinically forbidden. Which means, if we milk the cow and the milk just goes to waste, that is not transgressing this prohibition biblically. Biblically, you only transgress the prohibition of dash if you take the thing out of its original source and you use it. If it goes to waste, biblically it's permitted. Rabbinically, it's forbidden. Therefore, we are permitted in the case, in order to ensure not to cause pain to an animal, we are allowed to transgress a rabbinic, I emphasize a rabbinic prohibition, in order not to cause pain to the animal, and therefore we are allowed to milk it on Shabbos as long as that milk goes to waste. So we see how far Torah goes to protect animals, to protect animal life and not to cause them suffering. Does that mean that animals are like humans? Do we treat their life as sacred as we treat ours? The answer is no. And we will explain that on Thursday, exactly why and what and when this applies. What I want to just preface today is who am I to decide which life is sacred and which life is not sacred? Who am I to decide which life we have to go all the way through all measures to preserve and which life not so? The answer is, of course I can't. Because it's not me, it's God. As we will discuss, Torah gives us permission in certain cases to kill animals. As we explained last week regarding the death penalty, morality the only source of true and absolute morality is from God. I cannot decide what's moral and what's not moral because who knows where that can lead. If we want to lead a true moral world, a true moral society, we need to base this on God and on Torah, the way God commands us to be moral human beings. I want to finish off by reading to you a letter written by PETA. PETA is an animal rights organization to Yasser Arafat. Now, before I read this letter, I just want to, of course, preface that obviously some, or not even most, people which protect animal rights are as wicked as I'm about to read to you and go so far and I have such immoral rationale as I'm about to read to you. But I'm just trying to bring out where this can lead. I'm not saying this will lead. Just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean you're a bad person. But it can, in theory, lead to total lack of moral clarity, as I'm about to show. This letter, again, was written by PETA, an animal rights organization, to Yasser Arafat. Now, if you go on their website, you will not find this. They have taken it down since. This was written in February, the 3rd of February 2003. However, I have found it online. If you are interested in seeing it, email me and I will email you a link. The letter reads as follows. Your Excellency, this is addressed to Yasser Arafat. I am right, this is written after a series of suicide bombings in Jerusalem, killing innocent Jews through suicide bombings of Palestinian terrorists. I am writing from an organization dedicated to fighting animal abuse around the world. We have received many calls and letters from people shocked at the bombing in Jerusalem on January 26. Now, before I continue, how would you think the sentence would finish? Because innocent human beings were killed, but no. In which a donkey laden with explosives was intentionally blown up. And then they continue, I'm not going to read you the whole letter, but then they continue that all nations have used animals to fight their enemies in a terrible way. And they finish off, animals claim no nation. They are in involuntary servitude to all humankind, and although they pose no threat and own no weapons, human beings always win in the undeclared war against them. For animals, there is no Geneva Convention and no peace treaty, just our mercy. If you have the opportunity, will you please add to your burdens my request that you appeal to all those who listen to you to leave the animals out of this conflict. We send you sincere wishes of peace. Very truly yours, Ingrid Newkirk, President of PETA. This lack of moral clarity, that your reaction to a terrorist attack on innocent human beings, any human being, should be that please protect the animals. You're using your influence. What are you worried about? The animals that were killed in the suicide bombings. I cannot even explain what is wrong with this. Hopefully you all understand. Of course, we need to have mercy on animals. Of course, we need to show compassion to every life, including animal life. And Torah has many laws regarding this, as we explained above. However, we need to follow the moral guidelines of Torah in order to ensure that compassion is always directed to the right source. Have a good day.